Hey everybody, Pastor Hans here, and this week on the Daily Dose, we've been talking all about just sort of random questions that we as Christian people have about Christmas. And in this Daily Dose, what I want to get to with you is, what does the word Christmas actually mean? What does the word Christmas actually mean? I mean, we have been celebrating as Christian people for 2 millennia this anniversary day of the birth of Jesus. We celebrate it on December 25th every single year. What's interesting about that date, of course, as you learned earlier in the week, is the Bible has no date for the birth of Jesus. We simply chose that date. So how did we land on it, and what does the word Christmas mean anyway? Well, it's kind of interesting. If you go back in history, the first recorded celebration of the birth of Jesus on December 25th was recorded in Rome in the year 336. So think about that. It was almost 300 years after the death of Jesus that they began to celebrate Jesus' birth on December 25th. There are no historical foundations for the date of Jesus' birth being December 25th, but there are all kinds of suggestions as to why they chose December 25th. One of those was that back in the year 336 and around that time, there were all kinds of pagan festivals. And one of those festivals was to worship the sun god on winter solstice. Likely, again, the birth of Jesus happened at a totally different month in a totally different day, but possibly the reason they chose December 25th was sort of rival this pagan birth date that was celebrated in popular culture back in the 300s. Another suggestion says this, that March 25th, the spring equinox, some believe back in the day that was the date that the creation of the world happened on March 25th. And so, move forward from the spring equinox, 9 months later, what do you get? You get December 25th, the birth of Jesus, 9 months after the creation of the world. Some suggest that's the case. Others just simply suggest that in the midst of a dark and bleak time, people needed something to celebrate, some light. They wanted to celebrate birth in the midst of a time where everything was dark and everything was bleak and things were dead. And so they chose that winter solstice time of the year. And here's the other reason that possibly they chose that date, is that it upped the chances that people in popular culture would celebrate it, because there were all kinds of pagan festivals that were celebrated around the winter solstice. And actually, history suggests that those celebrations, those first Christmas celebrations, were rather raucous, if you might say. There were these huge celebrations that would at times get rowdy. There was drunkenness. And so get this, the early Puritans, when they landed in America, guess what? They didn't celebrate Christmas because that holiday had gotten way out of hand. In fact, it wasn't until the 19th century that the sort of family celebration of Christmas as we know it came to be. So back to my original question, what does Christmas mean? What does that word mean? Well, it actually comes from 2 words, Christ and Mass. Christ, you know who Christ is, Jesus Christ, and Mass, meaning worship, or the word that's used in the Catholic tradition for a worship experience. Christ Mass, Christmas, was the first day of the season of Christmas in the early church calendar. The celebration of Christmas, the Christ Mass, began a 12-day season that started on Christmas Day. The actual beginning of the church year was actually 4 weeks prior to Christmas, during the season of Advent. The church year began with those 4 Sundays prior to Christmas in which they'd celebrate the coming of Jesus into this world. Advent means coming or arrival. And so for 4 Sundays prior to Christmas, They would remember stories like John the Baptist. John the Baptist saying, hey, if you think I'm great, the one who's coming after me, he's going to blow your mind. They'd tell the stories of the angels coming to Mary, the angel coming to Joseph of preparation for Christmas. Christmas means Christ Mass. It's the kickoff to a Christmas season, 12 days of Christmas. Here's something else that might be kind of interesting to you. For a while, remember when people sort of frowned upon Xmas? Do you remember that? People would kind of go, what's this all about? Are you taking the Christ out of Christmas? Well, it's interesting. In the Greek alphabet, the chi, which looks like our X, actually is the first letter. If you were to spell Christ in the Greek language, it began with a chi, which looks like an X. This X was a symbol of the Christian faith in the ancient world. In fact, you might see on a pastor's stole or in a church a symbol that looks like this. That's the chi rho. Chi being the k sound, the chi sound, and then the P, what looks like a P, is the rho. That's the second sound in the word Christ. This has been used since Constantine as a symbol of the Christian faith. And so when you abbreviate Christmas with Xmas, well, that was something that was done ages ago. It was a symbol of the Christian faith. So what does Christmas mean? Christmas is Christ Mass. It's the day, regardless of what the history is or how it landed on December 25th, none of that really matters. What matters most is it's on that day that we remember that this Jesus came into this world that is so dark too often, is so weary. I mean, isn't it a beautiful thing that we celebrate in the darkest part of the year, this idea that Jesus came into our lives as light? Because folks, don't we need it? When we turn on the news, we look at our relationships with our family that are too often tense and too often broken. When we look at the mess of our politics and all that's going on in the world, don't we need that one that comes into this world in the darkest of the year as light? Don't we need to celebrate the birth of someone that brings hope, peace, and joy? Folks, thanks so much for tuning in to the Daily Dose. If you're watching on Facebook, maybe you'll share this. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell so you get notifications. And if you're watching on Cable Access 181, invite a friend to watch with you. Have a good one, everybody.